cooperation, how that works. I'll get into that another episode.
We've touched on that a little bit here and there, but I mean, I got to ask you, I mean.
So how do you prove that, like conspiracy to commit murder? How do you prove? That's almost like we think you're going to do something wrong, even though we can't prove it.
Well, not really, but you admitted to it. You're saying that they
eventually he had to when he went in. Obviously, he had to. But
what had happened was one of the kids that came up on the ride with me, he flipped. And he told them.
So there's your answer.
But you got to tell them everything you did and who you did it with.
Right, because they already know, because their kids already told them. So
sure.
If you don't tell them the truth, then your thing gets ripped up.
They know the answers before they ask the questions.
Right.
Like I said.
Yeah, they do.
Some coffee over here.
Yeah.
So now, what's this, French press again?
It is. So here's what AI just said. Conspiracy to commit murder is a criminal offense involving an agreement between two or more individuals to intentionally kill another person. The prosecution must prove an agreement, intent to kill, and an overt act taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. The actual murder doesn't need to occur for the conspiracy charge to be valid.
There you have it.
So
explains it all.
Yeah.
But you're right. If that other one of those young kids flipped, they already know the whole scenario. They know exactly you had intent to do it twice, technically. So the kid probably told me you went there twice, right?
What I learned with the system, with the law, is you need predicate acts.
Explain, because not everybody's going to get that.
Right. So is what Giantonio just pulled up.
Just explained, yeah.
There has to be predicate acts. So the act of, there has to be certain acts, certain steps to take.
The conversation that took place.
There was a
the
conversation.
Act of going up there with the loaded.
There was a conversation. There was a drive. There was a firearm.
There was more than two people involved.
More than two people.
Yep.
It's an intent.
All that scenario he talked about.
Right now, you're walking around the street. You don't know all this. You know, you're saying, "Well, I didn't."
There it is.
There it is. Conspiracy to commit murder is a criminal offense involving an agreement between two or more individuals to intentionally kill another person. Husband to an agreement between intent to kill, overact, taken in furtherance of conspiracy. The most important thing is the actual murder doesn't need to occur for the conspiracy charge to be valid. There you have it. So, and under the cooperation agreement, you have to come clean with everything you did and who you did it with. So let's say, for example, let's say I forgot about that. This kid flips. Tells him the story.
And it comes up later on.
Okay. If they find out that I purposely
forgot,
I get charged with that conspiracy to murder with no credit for cooperation or anything.
If you got a 20-year history in the mafia, for example, maybe this happened 50 times. How do you remember all 50 times? I mean, honestly, that's kind of crazy.
Intentionally meaning this. Let's say, for example, I'm just playing this out. Let's say me, you, and Sonny go conspire to kill that camera, right? Okay, now you flip, right? And now you say, hey, Giantonio, you remember anything about... Now, you don't know me and Sonny already flipped. They already got me and Sonny. They're already talking to me and Sonny.
Yeah.
Now they come to you and they go, Giantonio, tell us about that camera. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, nothing.
You're trying to protect yourself because you don't want to get charged, right? But meanwhile, they already know you're involved because they got two other people saying the same thing.
So not like they're saying, like you were offering that up to start with. It's almost like an entrapment situation, in other words.
In a form or fashion, it may be.
I mean, this sounds a lot like that. It's like we're going to use what they say against you to entrap you into...
It's a stretch if you got one person saying something against one person, right? But now if you got multiple people, you know, saying that, yeah, this is what went down.
Yep.
You know, and then you got one guy holding out for his own reason. They're not stupid. But you know, they're human beings too. Like the prosecutors and the FBI agents, they're not going in there with the intent to rip up your agreement. They don't want to do that. Everybody thinks that
they need conviction.
They want it to go smooth because you know why? If you flip and it goes good, the next guy's going to want to come in. They don't want to rip up your agreement and then make the guys here, you got
You got,
life.
yeah, you got
Even though you
nothing out of it,
cooperated.
and you still.
They really don't want that. You really gotta screw up with them
Yeah.
for them to say, "Oh, that's it. We're not dealing with you
Yeah,
no
we're
more."
done with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
I got to say the truth. Like Gaspipe, he did it to himself.
What did he do that was so bad that they just gave him like 500 years? And I mean, they just went off on that guy.
There's a number of reasons why. You know, when he got inside the units, there was things that he was doing again. Gaspipe still thought he was the underboss or boss. You know, he never changed. He wasn't sincere about changing, and he wouldn't go with the flow. Like I said, he thought he was
Still running the show.
he wasn't right. Like he wasn't. He was even when I was with him, he was going off the deep end. He really had like mental problems. If you see that 60 Minutes interview,
I don't doubt it. Yeah. I
you ever
haven't
seen that
it.
60
No,
Minutes
I
interview?
have not seen it. I probably need to.
I mean,
Yeah. You can see he's a
I
little
could
off
tell.
in it.
Yeah, I could tell he was off.
Well, you would know. You spent a lot of time with him. That's sad because I think in that life, a lot of times guys do that. You kind of get a little almost too full of yourself, and then you become something that the newspapers made you out to be, and now you're the boss no matter what, including with the FBI.
I think what happened too was when they started debriefing Gaspipe, it was just too much for them.
Meaning what? That it was too much.
Too much.
Too much information.
No.
Too many unalived. Too many of all of it.
Too many unalives. Too much. They probably looked at everything at the end of it and said, "How could we put this guy on the stand?"
Yeah, he's.
You know, this is
insanity or borderline insanity.
who do we put him?
Call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's what happened. I think they bargained more for, you know, what do you say?
They got more than they bargained for.
Way more.
Yeah.
They
And
thought maybe.
almost they couldn't handle how much they had to hear. In a way, they didn't handle it well, so that's why they just said, "This guy, we can't put him on the stand."
He made everybody in organized crime. I don't want to start naming names. He made everybody in organized crime who flipped look like an altar boy.
But he could. He had the history.
But think about it. I'm talking about bad acts. I'm talking about this guy. This guy had, and you know, some too. It wasn't just. It was a lot of heinous, psychotic. I mean, you know, there's just guys the government just won't make a deal with. You know,
and he was one of them.
I think they wanted to make a deal with him. Somebody had the idea, "Hey, this is a good idea," but then when they got into it with him, and at the end of it, they looked and they probably said, "How can we ever use this guy?"
Yeah. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, and then they got all that information and went, "Oh my goodness, we can't use this guy."
I mean, I don't think they should have well, I mean, look, I know I'm going to get criticized for all of this, what I think, but I don't think they should have, they made an example out of him. Let's put it that way.
That's what I read too.
Back to what I was trying to say with my buddy Petrocelli.
Yeah.
Go up there, Gus is not there. Go back down to John. I really believe in my heart, John tipped him off.
Right. Which makes sense. Which brings me to this. I mean, if you had, again, it's all speculation, but if you had taken care of the situation for Petrocelli, would he have given you up? Did you ever think of that?
Give me up, pal.
Giving you up, that if you took care of that situation for him, went up
Gus?
there, and took care of Gus for him, would he say somewhere along the line that Frank did that for me?
What do you mean, to law enforcement?
To anybody. If it got on the street even.
I don't think he would have gave me up like he would have flipped and gave me up. I think he would have told Vic and everybody else I took care of it. So everybody on the street would have known.
Okay.
I don't think nothing would have happened to me because I think the agents would the agents would have been like, okay, good.
Good.
You know?
That's what we wanted.
That's what we wanted.
I mean, really, that's what they wanted. They wanted the kid dead. And they were telling people, we don't care how you deliver him, but deliver him.
Sonny, I don't care what I even when I cooperated, right? And I met with the DEA, okay? And there was a bunch of agents I talked to. I said, I don't care I started laughing. I don't know who it was. I says, 2 guys, if I see them again, I know who they are. I said, they pulled me out of the car with John. They had their finger in my face and my chest. They were pushing me to where I was backing up to the, like somebody goes like this to your chest and you're backing up.
I used to have a boss that did that to me.
I don't care what you was telling me, because usually when they talk to you, they have 2 people there. The agent will never talk to you alone. Why do they have always another agent there?
Keep their story together.
That's their witness.
They got to collaborate.
We never
Keep
said
that
that.
story tight.
Yeah, we never said that.
No, that's not what happened.
So whose word are you going to take over it? 2 agents, or are you going to take my word?
Agents.
Right. I told them, when I got comfortable with them, where I could kid around with them, I says, I don't care what you tell me. I got pulled out of the car that day. I got threatened.
Somebody.
Straight up threatened. I said, and I got told. And nobody said nothing. He shows up dead. Heat's off, right? Now comes time. Johnny Petrocelli. I'm hanging out in Brooklyn one day. The manipulator, Bones,
Good old Bones.
tells me, stay away from that guy,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 right?
Again.
I go, whatever.
You get told again.
Get told again. I never forget. I'm with him up one night, knuckleheads, right? Thinking back, this is the time where Gus left. Like, Gus had left. He didn't get killed yet. He just left, okay? And Johnny's going on a rant. F Vic, F this one, F the mob, F everybody, So anyways, we're doing a deal. He said, I got my Columbians coming tomorrow to drop me off 60 kilos. Now, I'm building up a business with him, right? He said, why don't you sleep over my house tonight? He says, so in the morning when they come over, you could take your packages right from there. And I remember John, I sold him an M16 with a grenade launcher. He wanted the same one in the Scarface movie. That's how nuts he was.
Yep.
Right? I got it from him. I had that good of a connection.
You had a connection.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I sold him the M16 for cost, right? He used to keep it in his dresser. 2 doors you open up and he had everything in there. He had grenades, all this stuff in there, right? So he's sitting there, he's drinking. He goes, why don't you sleep over my house tonight? Tomorrow, he said, I'll give you whatever you want, right? I said, I put 15, 20 keys on the side for me. So now I was ready to go sleep over his house. I said, let me call home. So I called my then fiance, girlfriend, my mother's, not my mother, my son's mother.
Your son's mom. Yeah.
I called her up. I says, hey, I'm sleeping out tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. She goes, I got a bad feeling. She says, why don't you go home? Why don't you come home?
She said that to you.
I says, no, what are you talking about? I said, I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up on her. I get a page from my mother's house. And I call home.
Now mom's involved.
Well, she called my mother up.
Of course.
My mother tells me, Frankie, why don't you go home? Either go buy, there it is. Go buy
Ugly looking girl.
go by your girl's house or come home. I said, no, I'm going to sleep out. Well, who gets on?
Big Daddy.
Yeah. He goes, listen, he said, get home.
This is your father telling you now. Now you've been told by 3 people, come home.
I said, all right, So I hang up the phone. I go back to John. John's drinking at the bar. I said, John, you know what? I said,
See you in the morning,
I'll see you in the morning. Whatever. He said, okay, look. He
Makes
says,
sense.
soon as you get up, he says, give me a call.
Okay.
I said, all right. When I get up, I give you a call. I go to the barber that day, go for my normal haircut. I stop on Mott Street. There was a club there that was my cousin used to hang out in. So anyway, I go to the club, right, where my cousin used to hang out in. So I went to their phone in the club, and I paged John from there, and then they call you back, right? So I pick up the phone. John calls me back, and he says, "Hey, buddy," he said, "what are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Hey, I'm drinking cranberry juice." He says, "My friends are on the way." He said, "I'll call you when they leave." Meaning the Columbian guys.
People are delivering the packages. Yeah,
That's what I'm
got
thinking.
it. Yeah, of course.
Well, there was no Columbians. There was no packages. His friends came there and they killed him. They come in there, they kick the door down. Two of his friends that he knows, whatever, or he's friendly with, they start shooting him. From what I understand, he turned around and he went towards his dresser to grab the M16.
To get the gun.
He couldn't get the M16 in time, so what he did was he pushed them out of the house, or the apartment that he was in, so they would go out in the street. He went down on the lawn right in front of where he was at, grabbed the chain that he wore from my uncle, that my uncle gave him, and then before he died, just ripped it and said something, like Jesus or something, and he died. Those two guys get caught on the scene. They get caught on the scene. Eventually, they go and get convicted. They get life. I think they're still doing life in jail. Now comes time, they got to lay Johnny out, right? It's a closed casket. So that means, it's not, they can't fix him up enough to see him.
Yep.
And the whole Lucchese family was told not to go.